Part 43. My Love Simulation with Them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 422. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, you can see the cascading white woods outside the window. White mist rises from beneath the white woods. The mist was mixed with snow, and coupled with the temperature difference between the inside and outside, soon ice fog formed on the floor-to-ceiling windows. Through this crystal-clear ice fog, it seemed like an unknown hazy world behind. Just like the face he had now when he was drinking the steaming beet soup brought by the waiter, his face was half hidden in the heat of Nangxiang. "Senior Nangxiang, why did you find me?" After getting off the motorcycle and entering a restaurant in the scenic spot to rest, Matsuzaka Sato looked at Nangxiang with some restlessness. Some food was also placed in front of her. But she didn't eat. Compared with the craftsmanship in Nangxiang, the cuisine in this scenic area is actually not that outstanding. Not outstanding food compared to this. What she wanted to understand more was, in the past 2 days, Nangxiang should have been busy with exam questions. Why did he suddenly appear in a place he shouldn't have appeared at a time he shouldn't have appeared? If I hadn't appeared there, the naughty Miss Sugar would have run to the other end of the world without saying a word, right? Nangxiang, she replied with a smile, I spent a lot of effort to defeat the monster named Kaoxu. He smiled and spoke. It was like just completing a random thing. But Matsuzaka Sugar knew there was more than that. Although Nangxiang didn't say it, she clearly understood how important the exam was in the other person's heart. Nangoshi was born in Akita Prefecture. In order to give him a better future, his 2 older sisters voluntarily gave up their studies and sent him to Tokyo to study. Nangxiang, she can be said to have shouldered all the hopes of his family and came to Tokyo to find a way out. It's not as simple as a lot of effort. But even so, he was still there. With an agreement with yourself. She was speechless for a moment. I felt guilty and unspeakably moved. Even in such an important period, Senior Nangxiang still did not forget her. She just wanted to speak. Nangxiang, who had already finished the beet soup and wiped his mouth, waved his hand and spoke proactively. Then, you should be able to tell me this time why you left secretly alone, right? He emphasized the word this time, alluding to the fact that he had asked Matsuzaka Granu before, but was fooled by the other party's perfunctory attitude. The words came out. Matsuzaka Granu couldn't help but open her mouth. She originally wanted to keep hiding it. Finally, under Nangxiang's gaze, he lowered his head guiltily and told him his thoughts and the cause of the matter. It includes at least 700 to 800 words of psychological description about her inner emotional struggle and her apology to them in Nangxiang. She thought after saying these words, Nangxiang will show a very touched expression when looking at her, and understand her behavior. However, isn't this just purely self-motivation? Listening to Matsuzaka Granu's words, Nangxiang knocked on the edge of the bowl. Self-impressed. This unfamiliar word stunned Matsuzaka Granu. If you have troubles and don't communicate with others, you just think about it alone. One person feels that he is dirty and terrible inside. Another person decides to run away from home and even thinks that it is for the good of everyone. Isn't this the so-called self-motivation? Well, Nangxiang's natural words made Matsuzaka Sato not know how to refute. When Nangxiang looked at Matsuzaka Sato in this state, he also sighed. Self-impressed. This is actually something that some people with self-sacrifice personalities often do. In his previous life in the Heavenly Dynasty, he had a friend with such a personality. In terms of love, his friend is an out-and-out self-motivated type. I give milk tea and soy milk and fried dough sticks to a girl who is not even a friend yet, and I feel like I am doing her best. He is the type who is said to be incomprehensible by many girls, and after deleting and blocking him, he still has to meet in person and tell the other party that he must be nice. I didn't expect that Matsuzaka Granu, who was gradually recovering from her emotions, would still have this side, he was really negligent. But think about it carefully. Matsuzaka Sato has shown a somewhat self-sacrificial side to her personality very early on. Baifang said that he never wanted to believe that Nan Xiang was cheating or that Nan Xiang had shortcomings. He even took the initiative to put in good words for him. These situations actually reflected this. This made him couldn't help but shake his head, and then he simply reached out his hand and pinched her nose. This guy who can't even express his emotions fluently has learned to be moved by himself. Senior Nang Xiang. She made a panicked sound. But Nang Xiang, she had no intention of letting her go. You know, he spent a full 1,200 heartbeat points to simulate the self-impressed behavior of the girl in front of him. That's a personal simulation worth 1,200. After using it, now he has become a pauper who doesn't have a penny and has been completely drained by the simulator lady. Moreover, the entire process of personal simulation can be said to be very tortuous. At the beginning, he first confirmed various conditions of the simulator. Then he found Matsuzaka Sato's aunt, Matsuzaka Sayuri. He selected the 3 simulated options in advance and learned about Matsuzaka Granu's plan to escape. I originally thought of cutting it off directly to make the other party's escape plan aborted. But considering that he had an agreement with Matsuzaka Granu before, so I simply put this matter aside for the time being and started learning how to drive a motorcycle. To be honest, ordinary motorcycle driving methods were nothing to Nang Xiangshi's terrifying learning talent. It only took more than 20 days. He successfully obtained his driver's license from a driving school in Japan. Then what happened today happened. This is actually equivalent to Nang Xiang staying in this simulated world for more than 20 days. Fortunately, in reality, his somatosensory time had only passed for less than an hour, which made him feel relieved and continued to boldly carry out personal simulations. So now I'm just pinching Matsuzaka Sugar's nose. Nang Xiangshi even felt that she was being treated very cheaply. He was already very restrained even if he didn't spank her. It seemed that Matsuzaka Granu had something else to say. Nang Xiangshi saw his fingers slowly retracting, and at the same time he turned his head to look at her, waiting for her to speak. Even though I'm touched, but I still can't accept myself like this. Matsuzaka Sato rubbed her nose and spoke softly. Yes. Even if Nang Xiangshi explained it like this, she still couldn't accept it. There is indeed something foreign to my inner emotions. She couldn't accept the desire to monopolize Nang Xiangshi and to exclude other people's emotions. This is no longer what I am pursuing, pure and clean love. She said this without any intention of joking, and her expression was very serious, as if no one could shake her current thoughts. However, in the next second, Nan Xiangshi reached out and pinched her nose again. This time it was very powerful. She felt her nose hurt a little. Senior Nang Xiang. There were some surprised sounds. Ah, I'm sorry. Because what you said was so out of common sense, I really couldn't hold back my actions. Nang Xiang said sorry. But the movements of his hands did not relax, but intensified. This made Matsuzaka Sugar blush. Fortunately, Nang Xiang didn't keep taking action. After maintaining this action for about 10 seconds, he released his hand and took a sip of hot tea. But what makes Matsuzaka Granu feel strange is, Nang Xiangshi didn't say much this time, he just drank hot tea without saying a word, not knowing what he was thinking. That thoughtful look made Matsuzaka Sugar unable to help but speak. What's wrong with what I said? Senior Nang Xiang. Any questions? Listening to her words, Nang Xiangshi couldn't help but laugh out loud. The problem is too big. Why? Matsuzaka Granu really didn't expect it? The pure love that I have always pursued. In Nang Xiangshi's mouth. It actually only received such a bad review. She was about to speak again. But Nang Xiangshi over there had already taken the initiative and said. First of all, There are few 17-year-old high school students in the world who still talk about pure love. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 423. He extended a second finger. Secondly, there are no absolutely pure people in this world. After saying this, he continued, if I go by your standards, my love for you can't be considered pure. No, no, how is that possible? Senior Nangxiang is obviously the purest person. Regarding Nang Xiangshi's words, Matsuzaka Sato hurriedly denied it. However, Nang Xiangshi still waved his hand. No, sugar, if you think about it carefully, I am dating not only you, but also other people. Can such love be considered pure? He spoke like this. This caused Matsuzaka Sugar to fall into a brief silence. It was also during her brief silence. Nang Xiangshi spoke again. It's like some boys who have girlfriends are temporarily attracted by other beautiful girls. So, isn't their feelings towards their girlfriends pure? His rhetorical question actually showed that Matsuzaka Granu's views were too simple. It's just impure if it's mixed with foreign matter. Then there are too many impure things in this world. Even a saint would struggle and worry about food, appetite, lust, and other things. How can there still be absolutely pure people in this world? Pure emotions do not exist, but people can use their own reason and intelligence to control the emotions that are already full of distracting thoughts and make their emotions pure. After saying this, Nang Xiangshi slowly put down the teacup and turned to look at the snow and fog outside the window. The mist shrouded the window, as if shrouding the girl's heart. And in this chaotic scene, he could see what the other party was thinking. Grand Sugar, people who have emotions will not be pure. When people have emotions, they will care about gains and losses, and they will think about things. This is a very normal thing. What is really valuable is to control the distracting thoughts in your heart. Willpower. Control the distracting thoughts in your heart. Matsuzaka Sugar seemed to understand something. Well, it's actually human nature for you to be jealous of Ryo and Ichiri, and it's actually normal to want to monopolize someone. Nang Xiangshi smiled and asked, is it possible that you think that someone like Liang only wants to share things with you? If given the chance, she will definitely be the first person to elope with me and fly away. Matsuzaka Sugar immediately thought of Yamada Ryo. The woman with short dark blue hair. The woman who accompanied her when she was in Nangxiang. He really doesn't seem like the kind of person who wants to share what he likes with others. Yet she shared the person she liked with them. And that's actually what's amazing about her. Nang Xiangshi touched the tea wall with his fingertips and sighed. Yes. For him. That girl with short dark blue hair, who was never willing to share it with others, made unimaginable concessions for him on top of her feelings. In this regard, even Nangxiang often feels that he owes her something. Chapter 288. Although it is disappointing, there are still thousands of bundles. 4,100 words. After telling Matsuzaka Sato what she wanted to say, Nang Xiangshi stopped talking. He didn't particularly like preaching to others. But sometimes, he had to take the initiative to preach. Just like Matsuzaka Sugar this time. If you don't say anything, just point out her mistakes. Maybe I'll try to sneak away next time. He has a heart rate of 1,200. If you run out this time, you won't have a chance next time. So of course he had to say everything he wanted to say. It seemed that he felt what Nan Xiang was thinking. Maybe he understood something. Matsuzaka Sato nodded slightly. Through this nodding action, she seems to have reached some kind of reconciliation with her past self at this time. Accept your own impurity. Slowly, control the distracting thoughts in your mind. Her performance made Nan Xiang feel a little relieved. To be honest, he is not afraid of Matsuzaka Sugar running away. What he was afraid of was that the other party wouldn't listen. The former can at least be prevented. The latter completely depends on Matsuzaka Sugar's own ideas. If we can correct her over-the-top thinking, then using 1,200 heartbeat points to simulate it in person wouldn't be a huge loss. Think so? Nangxiang stood up slowly. Senior Nangxiang. What he did when he noticed Nangxiang. Matsuzaka Granu raised his head subconsciously. Are you going back? How can it be? Nanxiangshi glanced sideways at Matsuzaka Sugar and said with a smile, I just asked the clerk that there are hot springs here. I have reserved a private room. I will go over and soak in the hot springs. He maintained the speed limit all the way and drove for more than 2 hours before arriving at this tourist attraction. It's already so cold in winter that my palms are a little red. Although I had some stomach-warming food just now, my body was still a little cold. It was better to enjoy, relax, and warm up here. After the last cold incident, Nangxiangshi has become more concerned about his body. He just stood up. On the other side, Matsuzaka Granu nodded obediently after hearing his words. Let's take a bath in the hot spring. I see. If that's the case, then, I'll just wait here until Nangxiang Senpai comes out of the hot spring. She spoke like this. As a result, before he finished speaking, Nangxiangshi looked at him with a particularly strange look. Hey? What's wrong? Senior Nangxiang. When she noticed Nangxiang's gaze, Matsuzaka Sato didn't understand. What's wrong? What nonsense are you talking about? Nanxiangshi glanced at her sideways and said simply, of course you want to take a dip together. There's a cold wind blowing all the way here. Aren't you cold? Why? Nangxiangshi's words were so natural that Matsuzaka Sugar didn't react immediately. Wait until she reacts in the next moment. Nangxiangshi had already hugged him sideways. She had wanted to resist. But after seeing Nanxiang's somewhat warning gaze, he timidly retracted his outstretched hand. Pebbled hot spring pool. Through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows next to it, you can see the scenery outside the window surrounded by clouds and fog. The early wind blows the snowflakes. The branches of the trees are hung with icing sugar. The sky is white and the earth is white. It seems like everything in the world is rendered in white. There is an ice bucket on the shore of the hot spring pool, and there are several bottles of drinks stuffed in the ice bucket. Nangxiangshi and Matsuzaka Sato soaked their whole bodies in the hot water and looked at the scene of heavy snow. But Matsuzaka Sato's face turned slightly red. Half of his face sank under the water, leaving only his nose and eyes staring at Nanxiang. That beautiful little face, which is fair and pink, is like a white porcelain bottle soaked with water vapor, and its luster is so beautiful that it makes people's hearts beat with joy. I saw such cute Matsuzaka Sugar. Nangxiang had bad thoughts. While soaking in the hot spring, he simply headed towards the other party. This made Matsuzaka Sato notice, who had been observing him. The girl's face turned red. It seems to be retreating back. But after just a few steps back, his shiny white back had already touched the cobblestone wall of the hot spring pool. What are you embarrassed about? Nangxiang came to her with some humor. Looking at her shy and depressed face, I couldn't help but joke, is there anything about Miss Matsuzaka's body that I haven't seen before? Do you still remember the last time? No, don't say it again. Matsuzaka Sato shyly covered Nangxiangshi's mischievous mouth. But Nanxiangshi didn't care to hold her white and slender fingers in his mouth. Ah! This made her let out an exclamation. Subconsciously I want to stand up. But soon she realized the fact that her body was naked. In a hurry, the whole person sank into the water. Seeing Nanxiang getting closer and closer, the girl's eyes jumped away and her voice was thin. Don't be like this, Nangxiang Sr. Ms. Matsuzaka, are you ordering me? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Ziwei. Chapter 424. Nangxiang pretended to be unhappy. Wu. Matsuzaka Granu made a long voice, and then half raised her fair and pink face. Please, Nangxiang senpai, don't do this. Her eyes were filled with mist, and she looked pitifully as if she was about to cry in the next second. Don't do this, you want me not to do that. Nangxiang she continued to approach, seemingly unwilling to let go. And when he felt Nangxiang, he seemed unwilling to let go of his own psychological changes. Matsuzaka Sato lowered his head and lowered his voice. Obviously, Nangxiang seniors know this and insist on bullying others. How would I know if you didn't tell me? Nangxiang Shi's words were reasonable and confident. Such confident words. Let Matsuzaka Sugar cover his face. After a while, she raised her head, her eyes uncomfortably sliding over the collarbone of the boy in front of her. She swallowed, but still spoke quietly. Don't do that sexy thing. Although she was actually looking forward to what might happen next. But as a young girl, she still allowed her to say this. After all, we have just entered the hot spring pool. If you really want to do it, at least you need to soak for a while to relax your body, right? She thought so and glanced at Nangxiang secretly. Then, she noticed Nangxiang's slightly teasing eyes as he looked at her, as well as his teasing voice. I didn't expect it. It turns out that Matsuzaka-san is unexpectedly horny. I obviously just wanted to come over and get a bottle of drink. Why? These unexpected words made Matsuzaka Sugar subconsciously say hey. Then when she saw Nangxiang, she half stood up with a smile and took out the drink from the ice bucket beside the hot spring pool. This unexpected development made Matsuzaka Sato's face full of astonishment. Then she reacted. I was deceived again when I went to Nangxiang. The originally blushing face was even more rosy at this moment, making people feel as if the girl might faint in the hot spring in the next second. The pink lips were as bright as bloodshot at this moment. However, Nangxiang she had no intention of letting the girl go. He opened the drink can and said cheerfully. Matsuzaka-kun turns out to be such a woman. She thinks of that kind of thing as soon as she enters the hot spring. I am not. The blushing girl wanted to stop Nangxiang's words. Why not? Nangxiang blinked his eyes. How long have we been in the hot springs? Matsuzaka-san has already thought of that kind of thing. He is more anxious than me and even said not to let me do it. He laughed as he spoke. That look of teasing and teasing. Matsuzaka Sugar, who had already reached the limit of shyness, finally couldn't bear it anymore. The girl stood up. He pounced directly on Nangxiang. Matsuzaka-san. Don't act recklessly. This is a hot spring pool. Who lets senior Nangxiang bully people all the time? Making such a sound, Matsuzaka Sugar didn't stop. Wait a minute, drink, the drink is going to fall. Nangxiang made a sound. With this sound falling, white heat slowly rose. It seems to wrap everything up. Snowflakes are still falling outside. Come out of the hot spring room feeling refreshed. Nangxiang did not put on the yukata prepared by the rest hotel like a girl, but continued to wear the clothes she brought with her. For all personal items prepared by the hotel, both at home and abroad, he has a natural resistance. God knows who has worn these things. After soaking in the hot springs, it's time to book a room. After all, it's a 2-hour motorcycle ride one way from here to Tokyo. It snowed heavily outside again. There is a high possibility of ice forming on the ground. In this situation, it is actually very dangerous for a two-wheeled vehicle like a motorcycle to drive. Considering this, Nangxiang did not set off rashly, but decided to rest in the hotel today and wait until tomorrow to make plans. The self in the simulation is 18 years old. Now that he is considered an adult, it is no problem to stay overnight and book a room to stay. I took Matsuzaka sugar and went through the formalities in front. Then I spent some money to order the Kagoshima black pork hot pot, which is the specialty here. While looking at the snowy scene outside the window, watching the shredded konjac, scallions, and black pork churning in the hot pot, Nang Xiangxi suddenly felt that imitating it in person this time was not a particularly disadvantage. At least I enjoyed a lot of things that I couldn't enjoy in reality. He invited Matsuzaka Sato to sit down and eat. The two of them chatted while eating. Speaking of which, Senior Nang Xiang, when did you learn to ride a motorcycle? Ah, before, almost 3 weeks ago. Nang Xiangxi put a piece of pork into his mouth, feeling the delicious taste, and answered. To be honest, the chefs here have average cooking skills and cannot be compared to him. But it cannot cover up the excellent ingredients. So it tastes pretty good. 3 weeks ago. Matsuzaka Sugar, who was chewing it, was a little surprised. Learning to ride a motorcycle is not complicated. But it is also very difficult to get a driver's license that allows driving in 3 weeks. Not to mention that Nang Xiang was still in the critical period of taking exams. Matsuzaka Sato stopped using her chopsticks. When her pink eyes looked at Nang Xiang, she whispered, "Is it because of me?" Senior Nang Xiang. The agreement he made with her in Nang Xiang. In fact, she had always felt that those words were spoken by Nang Xiangxi on a whim, and she felt that Nang Xiangxi did not take them seriously. But now it seems. Nang Xiangxi never regarded the agreement with her as child's play. But he is very serious about fulfilling his commitments. Even during the exam period, I took time out. Adolescent girls are always moved by small things. Matsuzaka Sugar is such a girl. Nang Xiangxi just glanced at her and roughly understood what she was thinking about now. He smiled and said, "I can't help it. After all, a promise is a promise. This is the only thing I can be sure of. I will never break the promise." Yes. This was a small agreement between him and Matsuzaka Sugar, and it was a matter of principle. This is also an important reason why, even though he had already learned about Matsuzaka Granu's plan and could directly stop it, he still made a special trip to take the motorcycle driving license test before that. Matsuzaka Granu didn't speak anymore. In fact, there is no need to speak. Because Matsuzaka Sato had stretched out his white palm, then turned his face and gently kissed the side of Nang Xiangxi's face. All she wanted to say. All she wanted to say. It's all about this one kiss. Completely expressed. Everything that happened next came naturally. Nang Xiangxi explained to Matsuzaka Granu his plan to return tomorrow and told her that he would stay here for one night. Regarding the arrangements for Nang Xiang, Matsuzaka Sugar had no objections. She just nodded and agreed to Nang Xiangxi's plan. This also made Nang Xiangxi feel completely relieved. Look. Through this personal simulation, the pink-haired girl finally untied her horny knot. From now on, there should be nothing to worry about. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 425. At night, after a while of making out, Nang Xiangxi stretched out his finger and clicked to exit the personal simulation after the girl fell into a deep sleep. In fact, the time limit for this personal simulation is almost up. A total of 30 days. It took 3 weeks just to learn how to ride a motorcycle. Then they waited for Matsuzaka Granu to implement the plan and take the initiative to stop it. This took another 5 or 6 days. The remaining time is only about 2 or 3 days. Nang Xiangxi did not covet the enjoyment of these 2 or 3 days, and directly chose to quit the simulation in person. To be more precise, it's too cold to drive a motorcycle in winter. In reality, Nang Xiangxi's consciousness slowly returned. And the first thing he did when he returned was that he couldn't help but speak like this. Yes. Roam the streets of Tokyo on a motorcycle in winter. Admire the scenery of neon lights and white snowflakes. Motorcycle lights blend into Tokyo. Everything seemed so romantic. This scene seemed to be a very good one. But for Nang Xiangxi, who had experienced it personally and was so cold that he didn't want to talk, he didn't want to do it a second time. Call. Exhale slowly. Nang Xiangxi's consciousness completely awakened. At this moment, the body no longer had the residual heat after making out with Matsuzaka Sugar in the hotel. It makes people feel a little disappointed. But it's okay. Nang Xiangxi glanced at Nishiki Kishu, who was hugging him. Although I quit the simulation in person and lost Miss Matsuzaka's hug. But he also reaped the warmth of Jin Mukyungsu's arms. Not bad. He nodded contentedly. He rested his head in a comfortable position and continued to look up at the simulation. He can't wait to see where the simulation goes next. Chapter 289. Winter is coming as promised. 4,000 words. Riding motorcycles, admiring the snow, appreciating the road signs along the way, watching the surrounding scenery change from city to farmland to mountains, the white snow swept away everything, and also swept away her troubled and uneasy heart. The warmth she felt the moment she leaned on your back was a warmth she had never felt or reached in her life. She was saved by the warmth you gave her. After you made out with Matsuzaka Satu, you looked at the gentle and beautiful profile of the sleeping girl beside the bed, and couldn't help but make up your mind to protect her. Gathering her scattered pink hair, you also fell into sleep, preparing for your return tomorrow. The weather was good. The next day the sun appeared and the ice on the road had melted. You and she had a simple breakfast at the hotel, then got on the motorcycle and started on the way home. The sun is shining, and the snow on the ground is melting in large chunks. She mustered up the courage to take off her helmet without the restraints of the heavy helmet. Her heart seemed to be jumping high like her floating pink hair. She laughs loudly, although she doesn't know why she laughs. She hugged your waist forcefully and said something in a low voice. Due to the noise of the wind and the helmet, you couldn't hear what she said. However, the sound of the wind can be heard. She said, "It was really nice to meet you on that rainy day." Although it was still cold, her mood was extremely relaxed at this moment, and her body seemed to be radiating heat. After your serious reminder, the girl finally put on the helmet reluctantly. You have noticed that she is more lively and more like a person than before. At about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when the snow started to fall slowly again, you returned to Tokyo. This time, she promises you that she will never do anything stupid again, so I hope you can use your current energy on studying for exams. Her words are serious and serious, leaving you no room for doubt. You believed her, hugged her gently, and then drove your motorcycle back home. Because it was too cold, you, who was not used to taking baths, also soaked in the bathtub with uninterrupted hot water for almost 10 minutes before slowly getting up. It's really cold. Looking at the text in the simulation, Nang Xiangxi stretched out comfortably. Fortunately, I was more skilled and could easily leave the simulation, allowing my simulated self to send Matsuzaka Sugar home, so I could avoid the pain of the cold wind for more than 2 hours. Just as you agreed with Matsuzaka Sugar, you put all your energy into studying. In the following days, you study hard. The exam day for the University of Tokyo is coming soon. With the expectations of your mother and 2 sisters, you entered it and achieved great results. On the day the list was announced, your student number was clearly on it. At the same time, with your tutoring help, Yamada Ryo and Ijichi Honka, who were in the same period as you, were admitted to good universities. Fudabario was spotted by the staff of the laboratory of the physics department of the university she chose. She entered the laboratory during her freshman year and began to be exposed to the high-end physics that she had long desired. Akane Shinjo did not disappoint you when she entered the University of Tokyo. Like you, she did not forget her dream of making special films. After entering college, you have a lot more free time. The homework that seems difficult to complete among your peers can be completed quickly in your hands. You use this free time to tutor Kazuri Goto, Ikuyo Kida, and Satu Matsuzaka, who are entering the third year of high school. The scores of Goto Kazuri and Kida Ikuyo have stabilized, and there is very little room for improvement according to this trend. They should be able to get into the university they want to go to. And Matsuzaka Granis showed extraordinary patience at this stage. She was much more serious than the girls, so her performance improved very quickly among the three. Although you have contributed to this, her determination to not admit defeat and want to be admitted to Tokyo University like you is also part of the reason that cannot be concealed. I realize that my level can no longer improve. Kazuri Goto and Ikuyo Kida have taken the initiative, hoping that you can spend your energy on Matsuzaka Satu, who still has room for improvement. During this period of time, Matsuzaka Sugar has already integrated into them. They also hope that those who work hard can have a perfect result. At their request, you began to focus on Matsuzaka Satu's teaching. You soon discovered that although Matsuzaka Granu's grades have improved significantly, there will always be a period of time when he is completing the test paper that he cannot concentrate on thinking about anything. This is a situation that happens to many students because they understand the content of the test questions and can write the answers. They only focus on speed but fail to concentrate in the end. They make small mistakes and lose points. If this shortcoming can be overcome, maybe Matsuzaka Granis can really be admitted to the University of Tokyo. When she talked about studying in the same school as you, she, who had never had much desire for everything, had fluctuations in her feelings, and her voice was full of yearning. She wants to stay by your side more, savor the scenery around you. To this end, you specially developed a tutoring strategy for her. Your current strength is still lacking to get admitted to Dongda University, but if you can stay mentally focused, you might really have a chance. The lamp on the other side is Matsuzaka Sugar, and here is Nangoshi. So I will supervise you and keep you focused. I'm sorry, Senior Nangxiang. Even though they have become lovers, the girl will still subconsciously call Nangxiang Shi Nangxiang Senpai. For her, this title seems to have a different meaning. The pen tip dropped. The sound of rustling questions sounded from the paper. Focus. Nangxiang rolled the book into a tube and hit Matsuzaka Satu on the head, who seemed to be distracted. Focus. Focus. The night is so silent. Just looking up you can see a nice starry sky. However, Matsuzaka Sugar does not have that margin. Reminders rang in her ears one after another, accompanying her through one difficult night after another. With your tutoring, she slowly overcame her shortcomings. Be able to maintain a high level of performance from the beginning to the end of completing the test paper. This puts your mind at ease a little bit. Although Matsuzaka Satu's level is still lacking if he wants to be admitted to Tokyo University, in addition to strength, there is also a certain amount of luck involved in the exam. As always, you take her on long rides on your motorcycle in your free time. While passing by a flower field, you stop to rest. Under the sea of flowers, she promises you that she will be admitted to Tokyo University and move forward with you. The sea of flowers is clear, the blue sky is leisurely, everything makes people feel relaxed and happy. She who said these words, holding your hand, is far more beautiful than the delicate flowers. Isn't this setting up a flag? Nangxiang Shi glanced at the agreement between Matsuzaka Sugar and himself in the simulation. Logically speaking, this kind of agreement is like death flags, like we will get married after this battle and don't forget to tell my sister. Although it is just an exam that will not cause the death flag. But it's worrying. Why do you feel like you've been defeated? Nangxiang Shi shook his head. Meanwhile, the simulation continues. It's winter again. The ice and snow condensed into fine and transparent ice cones on the eaves. As you watch, the three of them enter the exam season. Soon, their respective results were released. Ichisato Goto and Ikuyo Kida entered the same music university that is very famous in music as Hijika Itaki and Ryo Yamada. The band ended and officially entered the era of university activity. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 426. You are actually not surprised by this result. Kichiri Goto and Ikuyo Kida have worked hard enough, and this is the result of their efforts. You focused your eyes on Matsuzaka Sugar and sighed. As you might have predicted before taking the exam, even though she had worked hard to overcome her shortcomings, she still missed out on being admitted to the University of Tokyo. This is actually not her fault. She only has 2 years to prepare for the exam. It is indeed too hasty to enter the University of Tokyo, and it can even be said to be very difficult. It is reasonable to fail. But apart from Dongda, with her strength, she can also enter other good universities. Even some of them are not Dongda, but they are comparable to Dongda in some majors. Faced with this result, she was a little silent. Everyone saw clearly how much she had put into her studies, and everyone sent her comfort. She can face everyone with a smile and express her gratitude to everyone for their comfort, but when she faces you, her expression is a little unnatural. Senior Nangxiang, I have worked hard enough. Come over when you see Nangxiang. Matsuzaka Grana subconsciously avoided looking, but a smile appeared on her face. As if she was not knocked down by the so-called setback of failing the exam, she gently stretched out her palm and held Nangxiang. You see, Nango-senpai, my strength allows me to go to other good schools beyond the University of Tokyo. In fact, when I went to the University of Tokyo to take the exam, I also participated in interviews at other universities. She smiled and stood up straight, as if she wanted Nangxiang to praise her. How is it? I'm very smart, right? Hey, actually, I knew the result before, so I won't feel sad at all. She babbled to Nangxiang about how little she really cared. Then she introduced her foresight to Nangxiang and the escape route she had prepared. It didn't look like he was comforting Nangxiang while he was waiting for her. But it was the same when she was comforting Nangxiang. However, Nangxiang remained silent. His eyes were as clean as ice picks hanging outside the eaves, and he looked quietly and calmly at Matsuzaka Sugar in front of him. Then, he shook his head and said softly, "You don't have to be like this." "Why?" Matsuzaka Satu, whose face was full of joy, paused. She slowly turned her head, her face full of surprise, as if she didn't understand what Nangxiang was talking about. However, Nangxiang continued to speak. "You don't have to act like you don't care at all." "Pretending? What do you mean by pretending?" "Senior Nangxiang, I have never pretended." Her voice of feigned joy fell, and at the same time, tears pooled in her eyes. She thought of the agreement she made with Nangxiang under the Sea of Flowers. "I've obviously told you before that I will be admitted to the University of Tokyo." There was a twitch in her pleasant voice. "I don't want any other school. I only want the one with Nango-senpai, the University of Tokyo." Trouble and pain surged across his fair face. What hurts her more than failing the exam is the unwillingness and regret in her heart. Obviously you have been so serious about helping, but she is still useless. In your relationship with her, she is always asking for things from you, and you are always the one who gives selflessly. She wants to be admitted to Tokyo University, to prove to you that your busy work and hard work are not in vain. And all of this was lost due to her mistake. She felt unwilling to do this and regretted it even more. However, you did not comfort her. You just raised your head, looked at her with red eyes, and asked her in a very calm tone if she wanted to continue preparing for another year. This is a very difficult choice. Preparing for the senior high school exam is very stressful. If possible, every candidate would not want to experience it again. However, Matsuzaka Sugar did not hesitate. She gradually calmed down under your questioning. She told you that she wanted to prepare for another year, but this time she didn't need you to accompany her. She wanted to get into Tokyo University on her own. What she means is actually very simple, and you can hear it. She doesn't want you to spend energy on her anymore. She wants to rely on herself, to get admitted to the University of Tokyo on her own ability. You respected her wishes. After all, staying by her side will also increase her mental pressure. But a year before you were preparing for the exam, you rode your motorcycle again and took her on a long trip. This time the trip is far greater than before. You took her to admire the torii gate of the Miyajima shrine when the waves recede, and you also took her to see the splendor of the Kinkakuji temple. You also took time to let her appreciate the scenery of Himeji Castle's first cherry blossoms dancing in the early spring. Her restless mind slowly calmed down after accompanying you to enjoy these unforgettable scenery. When the motorcycle trip was over, she immersed herself in the world of learning. At the end of this period, the band, Riko Riko, Akane Shinjo, and Ryo Futaba all visited her. After finding that her mood was relatively stable, they all relaxed and focused on their studies. And you were busy with your own affairs and only visited Matsuzaka Sugar once in a while. Under such circumstances, a year flies by in the blink of an eye. Winter is here as promised. It's the annual exam season again. Chapter 290. The Really Lustful Ms. Matsuzaka. 4,000 words. Winter turns water into ice. You sent her to the door of Tokyo University. You didn't say any words of encouragement, but quietly stretched out your hand to remove the snowflakes from her pink hair. She also didn't say much. She just looked at you quietly with her pink eyes for a while, and straightened out the scarf that was messed up when you brought her here. White flakes of snow fell from the pale sky. It seems to coat everything around it with a layer of white. The landscape trees on both sides of the road inward from the east gate have been stained with white frost, condensing together like crystals in a chemical experiment. When we were in Nangxiang, we took pictures of the snowflakes falling on her head as she walked. Matsuzaka Sato also stood on tiptoes and carefully arranged the scarf around his neck for him. There were many parents around who also sent high school students to take exams. Logically speaking, in such a crowded place, there should be clearly audible noise. But not this time. The parents who came to send their children for exams just pulled their children aside and whispered something in a low voice. There is no "I must be admitted to Tokyo University. Come on. Effort. Waiting for words of encouragement and support. There were only quiet confirmations one after another. Did you bring your mechanical pencil? Did you bring the pencil for answering the question cards? After everything was confirmed, they relaxed and watched their children enter school. The rustling sound is not out of place in the world built by white snow. Everything seemed so quiet. Nangxiangshi also didn't mean to say words of encouragement. He just turned his head and looked at Matsuzaka Sugar next to him for a long time, and then asked in a low voice. Aren't you going in? Not urgent. She stretched her wrists slightly upward, revealing the lady's watch given to her by Nangxiang. The snow-white wrist was more dazzling than Bai Shui, and it was soft. There are still more than 20 minutes before the exam starts. It's not a bad idea to go in early and get ready. Not good. Matsuzaka Sato shook her head gently, and her originally fair face turned into an intoxicating blush at this moment. I want to stay with Nangxiang-senpai for a while longer. She said so. In the world built by white snow, that touch of light red is as beautiful as a blooming flower. Nangxiangshi's eyes were instantly attracted by this light red color. He didn't speak any more, but amidst Matsuzaka Granu's surprised cry, he took her hand and led her to the nearby tree to hide from the snow. After doing all this, he accompanied Matsuzaka Granu and watched the crowds coming and going into the University of Tokyo. Matsuzaka Granu didn't speak either. If she was talking about Nangxiang, her light red cheeks took away his sight. Then her sight was taken away by the boy's thin red lips. In this snowy world, that thin red color was the only color that attracted her. Her eyes followed subconsciously. The cheeks were flushed again at this moment. She thought of the intensity of the kiss with Nang Xiang, and of the intoxicating kiss. She wants. Especially in this stressful situation. She wanted her withered lips to be able to feel his presence, and she wanted to draw a trace of warmth from his lips and the courage to face everything next in this world of ice and snow that seemed to freeze everything. But she was too embarrassed to take the initiative to speak. She is a girl after all. Having feelings, she is more shy than ordinary girls. Take the initiative to ask for a kiss, take the initiative to ask for. This is too difficult for her. In this regard, she could only let her eyes linger, entangle, and linger on Nang Xiangxi's lips. The unconcealed look had already given a clear hint. As if his eyes were watery, staring at Nang Xiang with watery eyes, his head was half raised in response. Such a clear hint. Any boy can tell what his girlfriend wants at a glance. However, Nang Xiangxi, who had always had sharp senses, was like a slow robot today, and did not notice the hint in her expression at all. Senior Nang Xiang, that. The pink-haired girl parted her lips slightly. Huh? What's wrong? Nang Xiangxi seemed to have just come back to his senses and looked at Matsuzaka Sato with a smile. No. That's, nothing. The pink-haired girl opened her mouth, then slowly closed it again. Then, she whispered, I'm going in. Ah, good. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Ziwei. Chapter 427. Nang Xiang nodded. I'm going in for the exam. She couldn't help but hint. Huh? I understand. Nang Xiangxi looked at her strangely and nodded again. I'm really going in. Unwilling to give up, she made the final concession, so, that, Senior Nang Xiang, are you sure, you won't do anything to me? Do something. Nang Xiang pretended not to know what she was talking about. And such an action made Matsuzaka Sugar's whole face turn red. But she has already spoken. Naturally, it is impossible to give up just now. Then Yingfen's lips wriggled slightly and her voice came out softly. For example, that, encouragement kiss, something like that. After saying this, she raised her head again, trying to take a look at Nang Xiang's expression. As a result, she found that the other party was tilting her head and looking at her with a smile. Hateful. I was tricked by Senior Nang Xiang again. Matsuzaka Sugar was annoyed. I have obviously known Nan Xiang in front of me for a long time, but why can't I help myself and am I always easily fooled by him? She was a little angry and annoyed at being teased by Nang Xiangxi. But Nang Xiang didn't take the initiative at this time. This made her even angrier. She was about to continue talking. But the sound all turned into a long tail tone in the next second. A slight sound came out. Then their lips parted. Matsuzaka Sugar Sakura's lips are coated with a layer of moist color. This speed is too fast. She couldn't help but look at the young man in front of her with moist eyes, and subconsciously said, what's next? There was some expectation and yearning in the voice. What a lustful Matsuzaka-san. Nan Xiangxi smiled and patted her shoulder, patting the white snow off her shoulders, with gentle eyes. I'll do the next thing after you finish the exam. He said with a smile. I noticed other hints in Nang Xiangxi's words. The girl's cheeks were stained with a red glow brighter than the morning sun in the blink of an eye. She took a deep breath. Then he nodded. Good. Then take a step. I'm off, she said. Good. Nang Xiang nodded and looked at her. I felt Nang Xiangxi's eyes coming from behind. The girl seemed to have courage. The steps he took stepped on the white snow step by step, leaving behind the sounds of click and click. She continued walking forward. Wait until the straight road is almost finished. She couldn't help but look back. The young man's figure is still standing under the tree at the east gate. At this moment, he was waving his palms towards her. That action seemed to mean to say come on. It seemed like he was waving goodbye to her. Matsuzaka Sugar felt relieved. Keep walking forward. On the road under the snow. She left her shallow or deep footprints, meandering all the way forward. You sent her to Tokyo University. Although you seem not to care on the surface, you are actually worried about it. You even bought a cup of hot coffee and stood under the tree to wait. The warm coffee warms your palms. You listen to the exam bell ringing, knowing that she is about to fight a battle inside that no one can help her. You took out your phone, stuck in time, and waited with a cup of coffee. The school security personnel on the other side saw you and invited you to sit in their office for a while and wait. You politely declined the other party's invitation. Your idea is very simple. No matter what the final result is, you want to be the first person she can rely on. The snow is still falling. Snow water seeped into your shoes, making you feel very uncomfortable. The cold wind was biting. You held the side of the coffee cup to keep warm. From time to time, you looked up at the teaching building, hoping to see the shadow of the girl walking out of it. Perhaps your expectations have played a role, or it may be due to your own sense of time. The exam bell seems to have just fallen 1 second and has rang again the next second. Under your gaze, you saw the pink-haired girl walking out of the teaching building. She obviously saw you too. She changed from walking to trotting, and finally to running, regardless of the surprised looks of people around her. Pink hair is slightly waving. She throws herself into your arms. Feeling the weight of this action, your heart tightened. Could it be that the girl who had been preparing for the competition for a year failed again? You have to think like this. But the next second, the pink-haired girl hugged your neck and pressed her nose against yours. Looking at the white snow falling on the bridge of your nose, she told you that she was very sure about the test paper for this exam. And these words completely relieved you of the burden. You smiled and stretched out your hand to touch her head and feel the touch on her body. But as soon as you raised your hand, you noticed something was wrong. It turns out that because of waiting in the ice and snow, your palms have already become numb from the cold. That cup of hot coffee that you thought could keep you warm has turned cold without even realizing it. You are back home. She stretched out her hand and carefully took off your soaked socks. Her white and warm palms gently held your toes, helping you to stretch your muscles and bones while not forgetting to pick up a pair of slippers. Feeling the coldness of your body, she softly blamed you for not finding a place to hide from the snow. She really didn't expect that you, who was so smart in the past, would be so clumsy today, standing stupidly in the snow waiting for her. You just chuckled at this, watching her stand up and wash her hands, busy preparing soup for you to warm up. Sitting down again, she stretched out her hands, supported her face, and watched you drink the warming soup with a smile. You ask her what she is laughing about. In response, she just giggled and did not answer. Because the answer is actually already in your hearts. Just such a simple daily routine makes the two of you feel like you have been away for a long time. In order to prepare for this exam, she has sacrificed too much, and you have waited for her for too long. But these are no longer important. Feeling the warmth of the kotetsu, you hug her into your arms. At this moment, nothing can separate you. The days pass slowly. Soon it's time for the announcement of the rankings that everyone has been waiting for. Different from last year when she was uneasy, this year she was confident and even said it didn't matter if she didn't watch. In response, you just stretched out your hand and flicked her smooth forehead, and then pulled her into the crowded crowd. The students around him either let out shouts of surprise, or repeatedly confirmed the names on the admission list, with anxious faces, or did not find their own names, with gloomy expressions, and were comforted by the companions accompanying them. You looked up and saw Matsuzaka Sato's name that was very conspicuous among the crowd at a glance. She did pass the exam. At this moment, Her face could no longer hide the joy. She ignored the surprised looks of people around her and reached out to hook your neck. That night, you celebrated with her very late. Although she was admitted to Tokyo University, her skills have not deteriorated at all. You are a little surprised by this, and curiously ask her why. She is embarrassed to tell you about this, but she often borrows various props from Matsusaka Sayuri for simulation exercises. You are surprised by her initiative and restless by her enthusiasm. On this day, you lingered over her body, and she responded positively to your enthusiasm without any neglect. When everything quieted down and you were lying on the bed with her, she asked you, somewhat in a dream, if she had had a dream. In fact, it was all just her fantasy. In this regard, you did not give any explanation. You just lowered your head and kissed her fair face, telling her with your actions that this was not a dream. Matsuzaka Sato was admitted to the University of Tokyo. During the year when she worked hard, you were not idle, but used your outstanding talents to write a novel called Travel Notes with her. Once this book was released, it was loved by many people who love camping and traveling. To this day, the cumulative sales have reached 400,000 copies. In addition to this novel, you have also written some essays and biographies. Your romantic, clean, and captivating writing style has been recognized by the public. Seemingly wanting to follow in your footsteps, she chose a literature major and started asking you for advice on writing. You were a little surprised by this, but you didn't stop her. Because just like her life, the direction she wants to choose in the future should be decided by herself. Your life is also at this moment, slowly reaching the next starting point. Chapter 291. May you also find the one you love. 4,100 words. When she was promoted to freshman year, you had successfully graduated from sophomore year to junior year. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 428. And it wasn't until she was promoted to Tokyo University that she realized how dazzling you were. Who had been by her side in the university. Every assignment ends with the highest score. Due to his handsome appearance and good sociability, he is quite popular in school. And because you are just a student and have written excellent literary works that are accepted by the public, even the relevant leaders of the school value you very much. The students in the lower grades regard you as the direction of their efforts, because you are only young, and the cumulative sales of your serialized works have reached 400,000 copies, and the total sales of all written works even exceed 1 million. Every time a new book is released, it can quickly occupy a corner of the Japanese Twitter section and the Japanese O-list, Oricon list. This is undoubtedly one achievement after another, beyond the imagination of ordinary students. Even the literature professors at Dongda University say that you are a rare rising star in the literary world. Even in outside weekly magazines, your pen name flashes from time to time. The students around you are also discussing your name very excitedly. Aware of how dazzling you are in school, Matsuzaka Sato understands. Wanting to catch up with you and officially become a member of your side, this is undoubtedly a very difficult project. However, Matsuzaka Sugar was not discouraged. She and you have traveled too many places, you two have also seen too many scenery. As long as you keep moving forward, she will be able to stand by your side one day. Her expression is serious and there is no hint of joking. Having noticed her seriousness, you decide. 1. Writing a novel is a dead end. Please persuade her not to push herself to a dead end. 2. Support her dreams and move forward with her. 3. Want to learn? Okay, I'll teach you, but before that, do you have to say something, for example, 18 postures or something? 4. Simulate in person. There is actually an option at this time. Nang Xiang, who was still watching the simulated development, saw the text options that suddenly popped up and raised his eyebrows. He has already done all the options that should be done. The option in front of me should be the icing on the cake. Even if you choose the wrong one, it shouldn't have any impact on the ending. At most, it will only affect the score. Realized this. He swept his eyes, looked at it carefully, and began to analyze. It's still a bit difficult, isn't it? Nang Xiangshi couldn't help but shake his head when he saw Matsuzaka Sato secretly making up his mind in the simulation. It is actually very difficult for ordinary people to reach his level. You must know that he has level 4 writing, romantic, skills, so he can rise to the top at such a speed and make his official debut. In other words, when it comes to literary writing, he is born with his own modifier. It is simply impossible for ordinary people to have this level of talent. They have to spend a lot of time and energy just to make a debut. It is even more difficult to catch up with him. After all, that is the writing skill of level 4. There is no problem in saying that we are at the top of the industry. Even if Matsuzaka Sato is talented, it can be said to be extremely difficult to catch up with him. To put it bluntly, it does feel like writing a novel is a dead end. But right. Nang Xiangshi shook his head. Although he didn't have any hope for Matsuzaka Granu's initiative, since the other party chose this path, he felt that as his boyfriend, he still had to support him. After all, this is the other person's dream. In this case, then there is no need to look at the first and third options. Nang Xiangshi looked down and did not look at the first and third options. He raised his hand and chose the second option. You know, the road to writing is a road full of thorns and will never be particularly smooth. But after all, this was her request and the goal she wanted to pursue. You did not stop her, but chose to support her silently behind the scenes. While she is writing, you will be there to guide her and give her suggestions. You tell her that if you want to focus on literary and sexual novels, you must first start practicing based on your writing skills. If you want to focus on entertainment novels, it's best to start with the plot first. She accepted your suggestion, but she did not plan to start with a literary or entertainment novel. Instead, she chose a popular novel with wider applicability. This is indeed a good choice. It takes into account both literature and plot. It can also be loved by people of different age groups and has a wide audience. Of course, you are very supportive of this. You did not ask her to start writing directly from the beginning, but first recommended her to choose some novels to read. Because only by accumulating a lot of reading can you have enough knowledge and be able to imitate the methods of your ancestors in dealing with the relationships between the characters and the plot settings in the novel. Under your recommendation, she began to carefully read some world-famous books and some interesting popular novels from various countries. Months flew by in the blink of an eye. On the desk, there are various types of novels. A book often contains many of her bookmarks. Some of these books you have already read, and some she bought to increase her reading capacity. The pink-haired girl gently flipped through the thick hardcover novel, then stretched out her hand to rub her sleepy eyes. It was also at this time that you came to her side, smiled and shook the coffee pot in your hand. She thanked you softly, and you waved your hand, stretched out your hand to massage her, and asked her how she was doing without disturbing the other girls in the room. In this regard, she told you with some excitement that after these days of accumulation, she has accumulated a lot of experience in reading, and has also made a lot of notes on various situations that need to be dealt with in the plot. In response to her words, you just shook your head. You know, if you just mechanically draw on the experience of predecessors, the works you write will inevitably be boring. If you want to write a good work, you can only incorporate your own ideas and understanding based on reference. Only in this way can the work be written smoothly and naturally. You didn't tell Matsuzaka Sugar this truth. Because there is no point even if you remind me about this kind of writing thing. Only until she experiences it herself can she understand. With your encouragement, she began to create. Since this is her first time writing, you ask her to write a short story or a travelogue. Due to months of accumulation of reading, she did write well at first. However, the pen in my hand slowly began to jam halfway through writing. At the end, I felt a sense of ambiguity that I couldn't write at all. Because she felt it? Obviously what she imagined in her head was an extremely grand and spectacular scene, but the words pouring out from her hands were descriptions that made her extremely dissatisfied. Most of the previous parts have been completed, and there are many references to other novels and works. Such a novel does not need to be reviewed in front of the editor or you. She will know that it will definitely fail just by looking at it. She told you what she felt in her heart, and you also told her the truth that you had not told her before, and expressed the hope that she could incorporate her own understanding into her writing instead of blindly borrowing from others. Your words made her think. At this moment she realized that the path of writing might be far more difficult than she imagined. But she was not discouraged at all. She reorganized her mood and wrote another short story and gave it to you. This novel is probably selected from what you saw while traveling with her. Even though the writing is average, the plot design is not commendable. It can be said to be completely inferior to the novel she just wrote. But you can see her possibility in this brand new novel. Even though her writing is rough, she still tells a story carefully and expresses her own characteristics and opinions in it. And this is actually a reflection of the writing style. You confirmed that she was indeed a talented person, so you started a long teaching session. Although it is teaching, at best it is just that you are there to help guide her while she is writing. As an author, she who has been famous outside for a long time, you are qualified enough to judge her works. And the cuteness and coquettishness she shows from time to time also make you feel a little excited. The more you communicate, the more you can feel your hearts getting closer. Time just goes by slowly in the interaction between you and her. You went from junior to senior year, and she also went from freshman to sophomore year. With your help, she brought the work she had spent a long time creating and met with editor Yamashita of Kodansha. The meeting will take place at the end of March. You sit with her at the other end of the coffee table, and on the other side is the editor Yamashita, who is carefully reviewing her manuscript. You can clearly feel that the girl is significantly more nervous than usual. Her breathing was faster than usual, and if she looked carefully, her eyes seemed to be trembling slightly. Under the coffee table, you stretched out your hand and held her palm. She looked back at you and smiled at you, her nervousness slightly relieved. No matter how sweet your interaction is, the editor Yamashita on the other side will not simply pass Matsuzaka Sato's work because of this. He told you with a very serious expression that Matsuzaka Sato's works are very good, but they are still some way away from being published. You heard the sense of relief in editor Yamashita's words, and you also understood that some distance in his words had made it difficult for many young people and girls who cherished the dream of being a writer. Looking at your relationship, editor Yamashita helped analyze the problems in Matsuzaka Suzu's works. He believes that based solely on the writing style, the other party's work has actually reached publication standards. The only difference lies in the plot. The writing style of Matsuzaka Sugar's novel is acceptable, but the plot is unsatisfactory. It's like it's something deliberately fabricated so that readers can't feel the sense of reality. His evaluation is spot on. Actually, Matsuzaka Granis clearly felt this problem when she was writing. But she doesn't understand how the so-called realism can be given to the work itself. This is a difficult point, and editor Yamashita has not given a solution. After sending the other party away, Matsuzaka Granis looked at you with some embarrassment and expressed his apology to you. If it had been in the past, she would have burst into tears immediately, brooding over this failure. But now that she has been traveling with you, she has long lost her immaturity and can muster up the courage to face failure. This is all because of Nangxiang Sr., thank you for always being by my side. Although she was a little regretful, the pink-haired girl still put away the manuscript and smiled when she turned her head towards Nangxiang. She knows. Nangxiang, she actually always likes seeing her smile. And since realizing this, my love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 429. Matsuzaka Sato never cried again, nor did she show sadness in front of Nangxiang Shi. On the other side, Nang Xiangxi smiled and shook his head. It's okay, it's just a failure. Simple comfort. The two of them smiled silently. It was enough to erase the frustration caused by this failure. But the problem is still before you. Reality and flaws in the plot are indeed what your pink-haired girlfriend lacks. If she wants to be published and officially debut as a writer, she must overcome these two problems. However, no matter how much she thought about it and searched through the hundreds of classics she had read in her mind, she still couldn't think of a particularly outstanding plot that was suitable for her to write. You thought about this for a long time and finally told her why not write her experience into a novel. A girl who lacks emotions has lived in the shadow given by her aunt since she was a child. She has grown up in a hazy state, living a hesitant life like a walking zombie. These are things she has experienced. As a person suffering from emotional deficiency symptoms, she should be the most qualified to write this kind of novel. Your words gave her plenty of inspiration. She cheered up and began to write based on what she had been experiencing. This is a medium-length novel that tells the story of the heroine's chaotic daily life and her experience of growing up as a walking dead. The true and simple words in it make people subconsciously immersed in it just by seeing it. The only difference compared to real life is that Matsuzaka Sugar has added an extra layer of artistic processing. The girl did not meet the young man who belonged to her. She lived in confusion, pursuing true love all her life but failed, and finally died of depression. Before she died, she saw the stars in the sky. She had never experienced emotions before, and she felt extremely lonely at this moment. The novel was quickly completed under her hands. After asking for your opinion, my girlfriend left a blessing on the title page. This is a novel written with my beloved. I hope you can also find your beloved. Chapter 292, There is no such thing as drunken sex. 4,000 words. You brought the manuscript with you and met with Kodansha's editor Yamashita. After seeing her novel this time, editor Yamashita became obviously interested. After repeatedly confirming the issue of copyright ownership and profit sharing with Matsuzaka Satu, he said that there is not much problem in publishing this novel, but in some places the publisher and her help are needed to polish and revise it. Matsuzaka Granu naturally has no objection to this. After repeated coordination between you, the contract was finally agreed upon. This is a very coincidental thing. Her works, like yours, are published in the middle of the month. The only difference is that your initial circulation was 60,000 copies, while Kodansha was only willing to publish 10,000 copies of her novel. But even so, she is very happy. Because this means that she is finally standing on the starting line, even if you have left her far behind. She began to try to break away from you, stop bothering you, and polish the novel by herself. This process was very tortuous, but in the end she overcame it perfectly. After much thought, she named the novel The Emotionally Inconsistent Son and her pen name as Sugar. The image of a bitch refers to the protagonist in her novel, and also refers to all girls suffering from apathy. The mid-month time has come quickly. Unlike you who are relatively indifferent and don't care about sales at all, she seemed particularly nervous today. You can understand her mood. Many new authors are like this. They are afraid that their novels will not sell well enough and will be left alone in bookstores. When the release time came, she saw with her own eyes that her novels were placed one by one in a conspicuous position on the shelf in the bookstore. Under this small pile of books of her novels, there is also a small animated character promotion sign. When she saw her novel, she could not hide her excitement while standing outside the glass case. She let go of your hand, and then ran all the way into the bookstore. When she came out again, she already had 2 hardcover copies of her novels in her hands. With excitement on her face, she hands you a copy of the novel in her hand, while she keeps 1 copy for herself. You blame her with a doting look on your face. You have obviously asked the publisher for a set to watch, so why do you still spend money to buy it? Faced with your accusation, she just smiled, then shook her head and said that she didn't know why she did it. Obviously I already have novels specially sent by Kodansha at home, why do I still have to spend this unnecessary money? Nangxiang, who was wearing a spring shirt and had a gentle look, stretched out his hand to Matsuzaka Sato's face. Matsuzaka Sato, who has gone to college, no longer looks the same as she did in high school. The two small, bare ear-like hair buns tied on her head have been untied at this time. The beautiful long pink hair falls freely behind her, giving her an indescribable feeling of freedom. Faced with her boyfriend's accusation, Matsuzaka Sato just laughed softly, and then obediently put her cheek to Nangxiangxi's finger. She knew that Nangxiangxi had always liked the feeling of her soft and white cheeks being rubbed together. I don't know why I did it. Matsuzaka Sato felt Nangxi's fingers moving on her cheek while looking down at the novel in her hand. Yes. She didn't know why she had to waste money on her novel. But whenever I think about the novels that I and Nangxiangxi wrote together, they are put on display cabinets for sale. She couldn't suppress her thoughts and took the initiative to buy it. This is just the beginning, Senior Nangxiang. Pick up the novel in your hand. Matsuzaka Sato whispered to himself. Nangxiang noticed it. The girl's voice has never been so happy and looking forward to the future. He released his fingers from rubbing the girl's cheek, took the novel in her hand, and then lifted it up. Under the light outside the bookstore, the plastic film on the outside of the hardcover book shines with an indescribable brightness like a girl's mood. Well, this is just the beginning. When Nangxiang held her slender waist and looked at the hardcover book in his hand, he seemed to see Matsuzaka Sato bending down to write under the desk lamp day and night, and spoke like this. You and her made a special trip to drink boza soda after that. The summer sun shines down, through the crystal clear marbles of Bozikiu, and then looking at the long line of bookstores in the distance, all this makes you feel indescribable vitality. Boza soda looks good, but it doesn't taste good. All you can see are the crystal clear marbles. However, compared to the unpalatable boza soda, her novels are unexpectedly popular. It seems that because of the subject matter of her popular novels, she has gained popularity among many readers. In addition, her lack of emotion seems to resonate with some people who have the same troubles as Matsuzaka Sugar. Therefore, even though The Emotionally Deficient Son itself is a somewhat niche plot, 10,000 copies were sold out in just a few days. Kodansha obviously did not expect this situation. They did have an idea at the beginning, thinking that your girlfriend's novel should be recognized by a small number of readers. However, what they did not expect was that the 10,000 printed copies would be sold out so quickly. To this end, they made a special trip to contact Matsuzaka Sato and told her the news of the reprint. This is undoubtedly good news. On the day Kodansha announced the reprint, you specially called all the girls to celebrate together. She hasn't seen the ending band, Shinjo Akane, Fudabario, Rico and others for a long time, so she is full of expectations and helps you prepare the dishes together. At the celebration banquet, people were drinking each other. You were already old enough to drink, and you encountered something worthy of celebration. Of course, you couldn't control it and drank a few more drinks. Especially Yamada Ryo and Nishiki Kishu. The two of them have been holding wine glasses and persuading others to drink. You saw what they were thinking. They probably want to get everyone drunk, and then use drunk sex to carry out the next thing naturally. You are a little worried. Your body has never touched alcohol in this life. It is obviously not at the same level as your body that adapted to alcohol in the Celestial Dynasty. You may not be able to withstand their offensive to persuade you to drink. Considering that today is a day worth celebrating. So you didn't refuse their offer to drink, but accepted them one by one. I drank like this until the evening. You covered Ryo Yamada and Shisuke Nishiki, who were drunk on the sofa, with a blanket. You really didn't expect that the two people who were obviously the best at persuading people to drink would be so vulnerable that they lay down and fell asleep. Beside them, there are other girls who are confused. You have no choice but to pick them up one by one and place them in the room to rest. Fortunately, it's summer now, so you don't have to worry about whether they will catch a cold. When you walked to Matsuzaka Satu, she suddenly stretched out her hands and hooked your neck. Her eyes were half closed, she was still mumbling some nonsense, her cheeks were flushed, and she looked extremely drunk. You can feel the warmth from her soft and plump body, you can feel her breath that smells of wine, and you can even see the depth of her chest. You, who had already drank some sake, felt a little drunk at this moment. You reached out your hand and rubbed her cheek as usual, hoping to wake her up. But just as she stretched out her finger, her pink lips took your finger in her mouth without hesitation. The soft touch makes your mind move slightly. You instinctively want to do some mischief anyway. If you ask later, you can blame it on the effect of alcohol. Oh. In reality, Nang Xiang felt a little energetic and subconsciously concentrated on immersing himself in the simulated world. But if you are already drunk and asleep, will you react to your actions? This obviously does not fit the description of drunk as mud. You saw through her mind and knew that she wanted to do bad things under the pretense of being drunk, so you grabbed the side of her face and teased her with a smile. Seeing that you have seen through her, she who was lying on the ground pretending to be asleep turned her head to one side in embarrassment, and stood up with some awkward limbs, shyly wanting to end this farce. Ah! Nang Xiang glanced sideways at the simulation content and subconsciously made a sound. No. Although he didn't take off his pants, he was still looking forward to it, right? Just show him this. Isn't he too silly in the simulation? It's obvious that everyone has already made it very clear. Can't you pretend to be confused even if you understand? He couldn't help but feel sad, feeling that he in the simulation was indeed 1/10,000th less than himself. However, the blush on her face is breathtaking. You finally failed to control your inner desires and approached her with a smile. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 430. Obviously she was the one who stirred up the little flame you had been suppressing, but if you want to get away at this time, it would be too easy. You finally started playing pranks. Perhaps because of the loud commotion in the middle, Yamada Ryo and Nishiki Kishu, who were still sleeping, also woke up. Watching what is happening in front of them, their brains are slightly offline. Obviously they set up the plan secretly, but why did Matsuzaka Sugar profit in the end? This strong sense of perversion made them very unconvinced. So under Ryo Yamada's incitement, the two of them secretly joined the battlefield midway. My brain, which was already occupied by alcohol, felt dizzy at this moment. You guys played pranks until late on this day. Well. This twists and turns of the plot made people in the real Nang Xiang feel a little surprised. Mainly because he really didn't expect that Miss Yamada and Miss Nishikiki would take the initiative to join in the process. He thought that a girl like Nishiki Kishu, who was high in attack and low in imitation, would be secretly watching. The result was really unexpected. Nan Xiangshi turned his head and glanced at Jin Mujianshu beside him. Nishiki Kishu's sleeping appearance was not pretty. At this moment, everyone hugged him and muttered, "No, Toki-kun, it won't work there. Although I really care about what kind of dream she is dreaming." But Nang Xiangshi hesitated for a while, but in the end he didn't ask. Let's continue watching the simulation. Put aside the little couple games between you for now. Kodansha has republished 30,000 copies of Matsuzaka Sato's novels, which will be available in major bookstores at the end of the month. Although this result is not comparable to what you have achieved. But as a newcomer, her results are already very good, and even ordinary elderly authors cannot compare with her. The writer Sugar has officially made his debut. You sent a special congratulatory letter on your Twitter, which also caused speculation about the identity of the newly debuted writer Sugar. You must know that you have not interacted with any writers at all in the 2 years since your debut, and your Twitter only announces to book fans the time when new books will be available in bookstores. The sudden action makes them have to doubt your relationship with Sugar. You and Matsuzaka Sato don't care about outside discussions. Except for the emotionally lack of wife, she has already started preparing for the next novel. She has vaguely grasped the secret of writing. And you have accumulated a lot of inspiration on your hands at this time. The following month, your novel Her Hidden in Kangshan Mountain gained popularity among readers. In the next quarter, her brand new novel Someone's Melancholy and Blank Life refreshed the sales of The Emotionally Deficient Son, bringing the total sales of her works to another level. It's like they are secretly competing, like two lovers. As long as there is a writer she releasing a new book that season, there will be a female writer Sugar following her. The sales of your novels are generally not bad, although her performance is still not as good as yours. Every book she writes can achieve better results than the last one. This is enough for her. The two of you never interacted with other colleagues, you just congratulated each other. This is like a secret code between you, only you can understand it. It's just such a simple interaction, but it also makes her feel extremely happy sometimes. She will repeatedly read posts about her relationship with you very late. In the process of such interaction, readers have spread word of mouth about your relationship. Similarly, weekly newspapers have begun to find you one after another, hoping to interview you about your relationship. You and her just smiled at this, and then they announced their relationship and future marriage plans to the public. You have just graduated from college this year, and she has just become a junior. Chapter 293. 9 Wives, Tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. 4,000 words. You announced the news of your marriage, which caused a stir among the fan base. Your fans unanimously believe that a little-known writer like Sugar is not worthy of the writer she who has long been famous. And her fans said that she is the one who is not worthy of her writer at all. The fans on both sides were in chaos. It wasn't until they saw your and her faces in the magazine that the quarrel stopped temporarily. Because neither your fans nor her fans have ever seen two people who match each other so well. Just by feeling the strong intimacy when you look at each other, they already know that there is no point in arguing. Blessings are sent. The topic of the engagement between writer She and writer Sugar quickly became one of the top 10 trending topics on Japanese Twitter, and occupied the top 3 with unstoppable momentum. Wanting to get married is not just a decision between you and her. You also asked about the ending band, Riko Riko, Akane Shinjo, and Ryo Futaba. Their opinions are unexpectedly unanimous at this moment. I hope you will prepare for marriage immediately after graduation. They have been waiting for your engagement for too long. This year, the popular Tokyo rock band announced that they would temporarily retire for a year. This year, the popular coffee shop Riko Riko in Tokyo announced that it would be temporarily closed for 1 year. This year, Nangxiang Shinjo Takyozatsu Company, which has left the Shinjo family and gone out to work alone, and with your funding, successfully produced several takyozatsu dramas that were popular among the people, announced that it would temporarily close down for a year. This year, Futaba Ryo, a talented female doctor who helped advance high-end physics, announced her temporary withdrawal from the research world. Every piece of news is probably a major event that is difficult to cover up in its own field. However, when these things overlap and are scattered in various fields, they become unconnected trivial matters. Before getting married, you suggested that we all go on a self-driving trip around Japan. The girls have no objection to your proposal. They have been working hard in their respective fields for several years, and this year they just want to rest for themselves. You first drove to Cape Soya, the northernmost tip of Japan, and took a ship on the way. There, you felt the gentle breeze of the spring sunset, and saw the monument of Japan's northernmost point with the seal of Hokkaido. My fiancé and you will embrace and kiss each other in the sunset. After repairing here for a while, especially repairing the broken down vehicle, You took them to Okinawa in the summer. The blue of the sea and the darkness of the island formed a sharp contrast. You saw the sea under the summer fireworks festival. Orange fireworks rise, and you see the beaded hairpins on the heads of your fiancés. Compared with the bright fireworks, they are more attractive to you with their charming smiles under the fireworks. Without stopping too much, you drove them in the car and continued the journey. Finally, when the maple leaves are dyed red in autumn, you come to the valley in Gunma Prefecture. This place has a very appropriate name, Azuma Valley. The red leaves floating all over the mountain are falling, and from time to time a few fall on the heads of the unmarried wives, adding an indescribable charm to them. The reason why you have stayed here for a long time is that the wild vegetables in the mountains here are ripe. Yamada Ryo, who is known to have the skills to identify wild vegetables, must leave it to you. By the time you leave Azuma Valley, white snow has already covered the original red leaves all over the mountain. Everything around you is wrapped in white snow, and you head to the last stop, Mount Fuji. Although the snow was not heavy, the fiancés still put on thick snowproof clothing. From your point of view, each of them only showed their chubby little hands because they were wearing gloves. They looked as if they had just returned from the snow penguins who escaped from Antarctica. You gently pat the snow off their shoulders, and then climb up the mountain trail under the leadership of the local guide. Mount Fuji is divided into 10 stations from the base to the top. You started at 12 o'clock noon and arrived at the 5th station, the most suitable height that Mount Fuji can recommend tourists to climb, at 6 p.m. When we arrived at the location, it was just getting late. The dark sky was dotted with stars. You could see the morning stars twinkling above your head just by turning your head. Time and space seemed to have become meaningless at this moment. Just raising my head and looking at the beautiful starry sky, I seemed to be able to feel my soul blending with nature. It was only then that you turned your head and looked at Matsuzaka Sato beside you with a smile. The fiancée seems to have noticed your gaze, turning her head and smiling at the same time. You really kept your promise, Nangxiang senpai. After gently drinking the tea to warm him up, while waiting for the food to be served in the restaurant, Matsuzaka Sato looked at Nango. Her words were full of emotion. Because Nangxiang, she really kept his promise. He once said he would drive her on a motorcycle to avoid the breeze of the spring sunset, walk through the sea of summer fireworks festivals, look at the clouds of autumn maple leaves, and feel the starry sky in the mountains in winter. Although I didn't use a motorcycle, I took you on a self-driving tour in my own car. Nangxiang, she smiled and spoke. That's it, that's enough. The fiancé smiled softly. Yes. Nangxiang said so. And indeed it was done. Just this is enough. It was enough to move her extremely. It already makes her feel extremely happy. She murmured softly, then turned her head to look at the sky. This time, she is not alone and confused, but with many girl companions, together with Nangxiang Shi. Looking up at the same starry sky of Mount Fuji. That's enough. For the first time, her face showed extremely pure happiness. Not just because I saw Mount Fuji that I wanted to see. What's more important is the people who accompany her. After enjoying the night view of Mount Fuji, you have no intention of staying on the mountain under the guidance of the tour guide. Your descent from the mountain is not tortuous. And accompanied by many fiancés, they stood at the entrance to the mountain. An indescribable feeling of regret also rose from my heart. Because standing at the entrance to the mountain means that the year-long trip is coming to an end. Although the regret in my heart cannot be concealed. But soon, a piece of news made your fiancés cheer up again. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 431. Your parents have prepared the wedding banquet. Your wedding day has arrived unknowingly. Due to the large number of people and the fact that the girls are a little picky about the wedding, the preparation time took you 3 months. For example, Ryo Yamada wants a rock and roll, Western-style wedding. She doesn't want to wear a white wedding dress. Instead, she wants to wear something she specially prepared for this day, a men's rock and roll dress. For another example, Inu Takina doesn't really like Western white wedding dresses. She is more traditional at heart and took a long time to choose before settling on a white wedding dress. Perhaps the most exaggerated among them is the 1,000 bundles of brocade wood. She has a quirky personality and chose a Chinese-style wedding from an ancient oriental country. Feng Guanxiapia needs to be specially customized, and she also has to get you to go to the wedding hall to get married. As for Ichiri Goto, Najika Ijishi, Ikuyo Kita, Akane Shinjo, and Ryo Futaba, they also put forward different requirements. For example, Akane Shinjo hopes to have a wedding with a Takyozatsu feel. Futaba Ryo expressed her hope for a wedding with a somewhat academic atmosphere. Goto Kazuri hopes that the wedding ceremony can be more romantic. Hakaka Ijishi said that it would be safer to keep the wedding simple and save money, while Ikuyo Kita wanted to invite many of her friends to the wedding. After all, marriage is a lifelong matter, and they don't want to spend the most important ceremony in their lives casually. You will meet all their requirements one by one. A variety of wedding outfits that you have never seen before are on display at this moment. You are feasting your eyes on the beauty of the wives, but at the same time, you also taste the pain of dressing up a doll in the process. Because your wives have different choices, you have to keep changing into different clothes to take wedding photos with them in various places. Even if every piece of clothing fits you perfectly, it took more than 10 days of hard work before you took the wedding photos. Regarding your misfortune, your sisters Nango Yoho and Nango Shiho do not pity you. On the contrary, Nango Shiho is still gloating about your misfortune. After all, you have so many beautiful wives. Even if they are both women. She was a little jealous at this moment. You didn't care about this, and even waved your hand magnanimously and told her that even though she was jealous, she would never be able to achieve the level of you, a beautiful boy from Tokyo. She was annoyed by your arrogant and narcissistic words, but after thinking about it carefully, she had no words to refute, so she could only swallow her anger. You first completed the wedding ceremony with the girls who ended the band one by one under the witness of the parents who ended the band. Then, under the watchful eyes of store managers Mika, Kurumi, and Nakahara Mizuki, the wedding ceremony with Inu Takina and Nishiki Kishu was held. The white and red Chinese wedding clothes were completely different but dignified and appropriate wedding. They couldn't help but admire it. Yuka Karasawa witnessed the wedding of Yu and Akane Shinjo on a Takyozatsu studio. At the wedding, special leather actors were invited to perform impromptu stage performances of monsters and heroes. Futaba Ryo took out a chart of her acquaintance and love with Yu at the wedding, and analyzed why she fell in love with Yu from a scientific perspective. Among these various weddings, probably only Matsuzaka Sugar's wedding was the simplest. She invited only 2 people. One was Sayuri Matsuzaka, who raised her, and the other was her longtime friend Hideshoko. At the wedding, his wife wearing a pure white wedding dress came to Matsuzaka Sayuri. At this time, Matsuzaka Sayuri was already over 40. Although the previous events had long passed, she felt an indescribable feeling of guilt when she saw her niece again. Just when she was about to apologize to Matsuzaka Granu, she was stopped by the other party with a gentle smile. She told Sayuri Matsuzaka that she had actually forgiven him a long time ago. Because even though Sayuri Matsuzaka caused her symptoms of lack of emotion, it is an indisputable fact that she was raised and cared for by Sayuri Matsuzaka. She spoke like this, then lowered her body and gently grasped Matsuzaka Sayuri's palm. Because I started working outside, these white palms are no longer as delicate as before. She stroked Sayuri's palm distressedly, knowing that the other person had sacrificed a lot for her. From now on, she should take care of the other person. She didn't hesitate or think too much, she just spoke and used the title mother for Sayuri Matsuzaka. Hearing the other party's name to her, Matsuzaka Sayuri was obviously in a trance, and then her cabbage eyes could no longer hold back tears. She reached out and hugged Matsuzaka Satu, thanking her softly for her recognition. The barrier between her and her no longer exists. You are watching all this from the side, feeling relieved. After the wedding, Sayuri Matsuzaka found you. She hoped that you could take good care of Matsuzaka Sugar on her behalf. Because she has never done this. I can only place my hope on you. In response to Sayuri Matsuzaka's request, you nodded in agreement without hesitation. You are her husband and she is your wife. Taking care of each other is what each other should do. Similarly, you did not forget to make a request to Sayuri Matsuzaka. You hope that the other person can live with you. Because it is too difficult for a single woman to live in Tokyo, especially since she has no money except working outside. Sayuri Matsuzaka was a little hesitant, but she couldn't help but called her wife to beg her again, and finally agreed. This ends the weddings of the girls. In addition to their respective weddings, there is also a general wedding. This time they had no other requirements. Everyone wore different styles of white wedding dresses. At the wedding banquet, they look stunning with light makeup. You stand aside and look at them with admiration. On that day, you ask the chef to prepare wolfberry, oysters, leeks, and other energy-enhancing dishes for you. After all, you actually know it very well in your heart. Tonight must be a sleepless night. Whether it is for you or the wives. Chapter 294. Your life with your 9 wives and daughters. 8K. 9 people. 9 wives married. Nang Xiangxi glanced at this line of text. Just by looking at it, he began to feel the pain on both sides of his waist. To know that this number is too astonishing. Although he had already expected that such a day would begin, and he continued to exercise. However, this isn't something that can be solved by exercising, right? Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but murmur. Even if it's once per person, that's 9 times. Not to mention that some people don't do it once or twice. Maybe it will be 3 or 4 times by then. He is not a god. It's natural to feel tired. But Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but glance at the universal healing medicine in the simulation mall. Is it possible that this thing is prepared for times like this? Just take one when you're tired. Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but shook his head and continued to look down. Maybe it's because you specially added extra food for dinner, or maybe you used some other method. This night, you did not fall down from exhaustion, but they fell down from exhaustion. You Nangxiang succubus, the name for absorbing other people's energy, are in jail at this moment, with no chance of turning around. The happiness of all of you has increased. Your fiancé's energy has dropped. Your energy has increased. Nang Xiangxi. Ah. Has my energy increased? Are you sure you're not kidding? I am human. I'm not a succubus, okay. Nang Xiang was speechless for a while, and could only stare at the simulator page in silence for a long time, and finally shook his head. Never mind. Since it is something simulated in the simulator. That may happen in the future. Not a bad thing anyway. It's okay to leave it alone. Keep watching the simulation. I calmed down my mood. His eyes also turned to the simulation page. You officially completed all the wedding formalities at the beginning of the year. After the wedding this time. After a year of silence, the band resumed activities. Liko Liko has reopened after being closed for a year. Nangxiang Shinjo, which was temporarily closed, has also begun to prepare for the shooting of a new special photo shoot. Nango Rio, who quit the research laboratory, established a research group according to her own wishes and invested in a project chaired by her. And Nangxiang Sugar also restarted the novel writer's account with you. You summarized what you saw and heard this year and wrote a novel. At Nangxiang Sutang's suggestion, you named the novel Swaying Journey. This is a popular novel that is not serious. It omits your existence. It tells the story of 9 women who were engaged for different reasons and gathered in a campsite for various reasons. After a series of oolongs and funny events, 9 girls who were engaged for different reasons decided to go on a long trip together to pay tribute to their youth. This novel is filled with your unique humor and delicate and romantic writing. It mainly tells the story of 9 girls of all kinds who are engaged for different reasons, but all of them are engaged and regain their true youthful nature during this trip. The novel version of Swinging Far Away was not favored by the publisher at first, because it was completely inconsistent with the inner shell of your romantic and serious literary works. And making changes will inevitably have an impact on your fan base. They wanted you to write other works, but you waved them away and said that this was indeed the highest level novel you could write at the moment. Seeing that it is impossible to persuade, and Swaying Journey has indeed reached the quality of publication. So, although the publisher is hesitant, it still respects your wishes and publishes your Swinging Journey. It's no surprise that the moment the outside world heard the title of your new book and its relative content, they all lamented that you have exhausted your talents. They think that you wasted too much wonderful time this year, so you wrote this kind of popular novel that has no characteristics and is lost in everyone, and even has some rancid smells of otakus and otakus. You didn't make any excuses for this on your account, you just waited quietly for public opinion to ferment and for the novel to be released. With everyone looking forward to it or gloating about it, your novel was officially put on the market, and 30,000 copies were sold as planned to test the waters.